Shorthanded Lakers get hammered by the Spurs, and meanwhile, LeBron, people think he put his teammates on blast. We'll tell you why. Everybody might be overreacting next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on weekends, even on holidays, whether you get the podcast through Apple iTunes, or maybe you're one of the 37,000 plus subscribers to the Locked On Lakers YouTube channel. No matter how you do it, you are part of making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in this or any other known universe. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky, long time covering the Lakers for ESPN, for the LA Times, for The Athletic. And in that time, Andy, we have learned a bunch of things, and including when you are missing your entire starting lineup and you're playing a good team, chances are you're going to lose. And that is exactly what happened to the Lakers on Tuesday night at the Crypt. They lose to San Antonio 136-108 in a game that was actually probably not as close as the score might indicate. We'll tell you what happened there and then break down some comments from over the weekend from LeBron James, or I'm sorry, early in the week from LeBron James. But do want to let you know first that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The winter games are on. There's no better way to follow them than with a bet on FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. So again, we'll start talking a little bit about player health and LeBron James and his evaluation of where the Lakers stand after the Oklahoma City game. But man alive, Andy, the Lakers were shorthanded in this game Tuesday night against the Spurs, and it kind of basically sort of went exactly as you would expect.
No Luka Dončić, no LeBron James, no Austin Reaves, no DeAndre Ayton, no Marcus Smart. Basically the group that everybody is expecting to be the starting five once Austin Reaves is off that minutes restriction coming back from the calf injury. So you're looking at a starting lineup of Rui, Jake LaRavia, Jackson Hayes, Luke Kennard, and new 15th man Kobe Buffkin. And to put this in perspective, new 15th man Kobe Buffkin played, I guess, fittingly given the first name, 24 minutes. But that's not a sign that your team is in strong shape. If, with all sincere respect and good for Kobe Buffkin for getting this, if he's playing 24 minutes in a game, it means something went sideways in some type of direction. It could maybe be so sideways the Lakers kicked the ever-living crap out of who they played, and it led to a bunch of garbage time for, again, 15th man Kobe Buffkin. But one way or another, it means things really just were out of whack from the get-go. There's not a ton to take away from this game other than the reminder that even within this context, holy hell, Wemby's awesome.
Yeah, he scored, was it 25 in the first quarter?
17 straight points, 17 consecutive points. When he got his first points in this game, it was 1 out of 2 at the line, put San Antonio up 4-2. When he eventually checked out with like 4 minutes left in the first quarter, as you said, he had 25 points and the Spurs were up by double digits. Like, he just wrecked shop in this game.
Yeah, he had 37 at the half, and quite honestly, if he or the Spurs had really kept their foot on the gas, he ended up with 40 in 26 minutes. Had he really made a concerted effort to continue scoring, played through the third, played through the fourth, it is very possible he has 65, 70 points in this game. Like the Lakers, I mean, everybody would have fouled. Jake LaRavia fouled out anyway with 2 minutes into the third quarter. And look, I'll say this, like,
I'm not gonna lie, it felt by about foul 3 or 4, LaRavia was like, F this, man, I'm just fouling out.
He didn't look,
he got his fifth foul like a minute into the third quarter. He was just like double middle fingers, man. I'm done with this.
He didn't look disappointed.
No.
Like when he fouled out, it wasn't like
no
angry heading back to the bench, and like he didn't look upset about it. Like I'll say this. if you're looking for some things to take away from this game, um, Jake hit a couple early threes, and something like that, just to see the ball go through the basket from the perimeter could be helpful for him. The Lakers really need him to pick up the outside shooting because, the hustle is great. Everybody appreciates it. He has become kind of an energy guy that a useful defensive player and all that. He needs to be shooting the ball better to be, to have the place in the Lakers rotation that he has. Even when guys are healthy, he's still going to be, one of your upper end rotation players. And some of that is predicated on shooting, and they need him to pick it up there. And so it was good to see that happen. If you're looking down the roster, Drew Timme continues to show he can score against NBA players. Bronny, I think, has kind of quietly put together some nice minutes that show that he's continuing to get better and gain confidence at the very least. He had 12 points in this game and 6 assists. And so, 12 and 6 in 25 minutes. So, and that's it. There's nothing.
No, Adu Thero actually played in this game, and
that's true.
He threw down a monster lob dunk. So if nothing else, the knee that had kept him out to this point seems fine. I mean, he got up and
he said after the game that he's got tremendous confidence. Like, he doesn't think about the knee. That's not an issue. He's not thinking about it anymore and all that stuff. I mean, this was not a great game for the Kobe Buffkin stands, who, if you're one of those people who thinks the Lakers would have been better off holding out for a different player at in the buyout market, whether, I don't think a Cam Thomas type guy was coming here.
There is not a shot in hell that Cam Thomas, given what he needs to, I think in his mind, get his career going the way he wants it to. He made a bet on himself, taking the qualifying offer with the Nets. That bet has not paid off well at all. The Lakers were not going to offer him enough of an opportunity. I would have been stunned if the Lakers were even on Cam Thomas's list.
So, and you look around the league and different guys who might appear, there are players like Haywood Highsmith, who fits the profile of the type of player the Lakers would want, can shoot the three, has a pretty good defensive profile. He's also been injured all season long. And so, do you really want to use that spot up on a guy who hasn't played and you really can't vouch for his health? And so there's all kinds of considerations. There will be guys probably who do get bought out between now and the playoffs, whether it's a Chris Middleton type, in Washington, or Yusuf Nurkic in Utah, because they're really trying not to win there, and Nurk is playing too well. So there are guys like that who might, but so I am sort of indifferent to this question. I think you can make an argument for Buffkin, but this was not great. This reminded you more of the guy who the Hawks gave up on versus the the guy who's been lighting up the G League.
JJ Redick said before, I don't remember, it was before the OKC game, in talking about Buffkin with the 15th man spot. The rationale was, I mean, as JJ said, and this is the truth, and we've both said this, you in particular, Brian, it is very rare for buyout guys to make an impact for serious teams in the playoffs. Like, you can find a couple of exceptions, but honestly, like Markieff Morris with the Lakers in 2020, he is among the more bigger success stories for a buyout guy making an actual impact on a serious team. And, I think Keith mattered on that team, but I wouldn't go so far as to say if they didn't have Markieff Morris, they don't win a championship.
And it's worth noting this: he was really bad in the regular season.
Sure, but the point being, though, Markieff Morris is one of the strongest examples of a buyout guy making an actual impact. Like, he's probably in the top 5 for the last 10 years worth of the playoffs. So to put that in perspective, JJ also mentioned that, this is somebody that I think they want to get a longer look at. They want to keep in their system. He is 22 years old. I think they, as we thought, got very strong signals that if the Lakers did not scoop him up now, he was going to get scooped up by another team.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's one, like the temptation is to think of guys sometimes as like, the 15th player, or sorry, the buyout guy as a potential difference maker, but you're also, in essence, you're filling out the 15th spot on your roster. And it makes sense for a team like the Lakers. Again, you can argue for a lot of different things in the situation, but arguing for picking up a young, late lottery pick, I believe he was, who is, certainly young, not so old that you could, totally write him off, and has shown, at least at the G League level, that he's got some skills, and try to get that player into your system when you are really short of young players.
Yeah.
It's not the worst idea in the world.
I don't mind it.
So let's talk a little bit about the comments that LeBron made after the Oklahoma City game, because that got a lot of people's attention. And once again, at least in my read, Andy, this is at least a little bit of folks looking for controversy where it may not exist. We'll get to it next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Indeed. Hiring's not just about finding someone willing to take a job. You can find anybody who'll just take a job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed sponsored jobs, that's the move. Instead of finding the right person to just stumble across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who actually fit your specific criteria, like skills, certifications, location. And if I was hiring, I don't want just someone who can help. I want someone with real experience who can jump right in. With sponsored jobs, your posts get seen by the right candidates who are actually a fit. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking with you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed.
Locked On Lakers is all. Locked On Lakers is also brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena. The crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that can be tricky. And that's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without all the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs with the fans. Now, some people love doing this for the NBA. My family, we use Game Time for kind of everything we go to. We're big soccer people. We like to go to the LAFC. We go to Angel City. I got tickets for Disney on Ice. All of this using Game Time. You use the upfront pricing. You get to see where you're going to sit. You get the view from the seat. The kids can see exactly what it's going to look like from where they're sitting. And I like the fact that I can see all the fees and everything before we check out. No surprises. I know exactly how much this is all going to cost before we get to the building. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets, whether NBA or everything else, with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. So, having moved now, Andy, past the whatever it was that we watched on Tuesday night, the Lakers do have one more game before the break. It will be interesting to see who plays in that one. I would suspect that LeBron and AR will be back for that one. Deandre Ayton, I think, was downgraded because everybody else was probably out too. Probably
and second end of a back-to-back.
Right. And, it's been banged up and all that. It's just at this point, when you're sitting all three of those guys, anybody else has got some bruising, you might as well let them sit too. Yep. Same with Marcus Smart, who the Lakers desperately need to keep healthy for the stretch run, and has quietly, by the way, since the calendar turned over, started shooting the ball a little bit better. So They got to keep those guys healthy. I suspect most of those guys will play Thursday night. The big question becomes Luka. JJ described him still as day-to-day. They did not make an evaluation as to whether or not he will or won't play on Thursday, which all things considered is a good sign. If it was really bad, they'd say, no, we're going to sit him for Thursday and, we'll bring him back after the break. It indicates that the injury may not be that bad. And at worst, he should be available to play when the Lakers come back after the All-Star break.
Yeah, one hopes. I mean, we've talked about before, if they want to give Luka a break, like the entirety of the break, and not have to deal with any All-Star implications, then you really have to create plausible deniability by keeping him out of this game. So I imagine to some degree, this will be dictated by how much the Lakers and Luka himself wants to take part in the All-Star festivities, like even just for 5 minutes or whatever.
Plus practice.
But this stuff often is dictated that way. So we'll see.
And to be fair to Luka and a lot of these guys, many players rightly feel, I think, in a lot of pressure to play in these games, particularly guys who've been voted in by the fans, as Luka was, who have large followings internationally, as Luka does. There is understandably a very strong pull to play in these showcase games. So if I had to guess, he'll play in the All-Star game or appear in one form or another. I don't know how hard he'll run. I hope it not vary. But
that means he'll fit in with the All-Star. I don't
know, be able to tell the difference.
He's going to be representing the entire world, so that could bring out some competitive fire in him, assuming somebody can explain the rules to him in a way that he can understand.
Yeah, and look, Lauri Markkanen is sitting on the sidelines, available to come in and fill in the gaps for the world team if they need to. So. That world team, by the way, if everybody is healthy, like if you really wanted to make a great NBA team, that world roster is stacked. But anyway, moving on. After the Oklahoma City game, Andy, the Lakers obviously playing shorthanded. They played hard. They were out executed in the fourth quarter in a big way, which has not been the norm over the course of the season. That's one place the Lakers have excelled. LeBron got drew a lot of attention for some of his comments after the game. The most noticeable one being, when he just flat declared, we're not a championship level team. But there was sort of other context attached to those quotes that got people talking that we didn't get a chance to break down, but I think are interesting.
Yeah. I mean, to begin, a lot of people just saw the quote, like the poll quote where LeBron talking about the Thunder said, I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but he was asked by Dan Wojcicki from The Athletic to compare certain things the Lakers do or do not do that the Thunder do, and what are the things missing in order to be at that level. And LeBron said, you want me to compare them to us? They're a championship team, we're not. And one of the things, though, that I think, because obviously a poll quote like that, they're a championship team, we're not, is going to get a lot of people's attention. But one
especially
of the things
from LeBron.
Right, especially when it comes from LeBron. But one of the things I think that was interesting is if you saw the entire scrum, like the postgame scrum with LeBron, he admitted to being irritated, just in the sense that they lost and, it was a tight game and they didn't manage to pull the thing out after actually getting themselves back into it. But he actually complimented the team a fair amount. Like he said that he thought the defense in a lot of the game was pretty good, and he was not as aggravated, or at least my read on it was he was not as aggravated afterwards as I think that poll quote would lead people to believe. To some degree, I also think he was making a matter-of-fact statement, like in the most literal way. They are a championship team. They've won a championship. They have accomplished something we as a group have not. Like, I do think he was perhaps expressing doubts as to whether or not the Lakers can win a championship. I'm sure there's some piece of that in there. But I do think, though, and, from having spent a lot of time around LeBron and seen him answer a lot of questions over the years and a lot of different tone with different questions depending on what he's saying. I think he was speaking truthfully, but I don't think he was putting the team on blast the way a lot of people have interpreted it. We'll get into the follow-up comment that I thought he had was in a lot of ways more interesting and I think in some ways more revealing and potentially more infuriating for fans. And we'll get into that. But just the idea of LeBron assessing the Lakers as not a championship team, there is an element of no bleep, man. We've watched the thing all year.
Well, it's also too is this is pretty standard issue stuff in the sense that like you say that in this is the benchmark that we need to reach.
Mm-hmm.
That is what
Yes.
where we need to get to. That's where they are. This is where we are. We need to get to that point. He didn't say we can't. I mean, I tend to think they can't, but
I tend to think he thinks they can't.
I think he knows they can't.
But that's not the same thing though as
saying it.
Giving up on this. Well, it's not
Correct.
the same thing as also giving up on the season.
Right. You keep going and you keep trying. But like the other part of this statement, which I find interesting, is, so it's one thing you set the bar and you say, like, this is the gap that we need to fill. Like, that's the level that we're going to have to reach if we're going to beat a team like that 4 times in 7 games. He said, quote, "We can't sustain energy and effort for 48 minutes, and they can. That's why they won a championship." I actually think you and I might interpret this slightly differently. And so I want to look at this comment next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by technical issues. Locked On Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. What is going on? The Winter Games, they're officially here. Hopefully broadcast.
Was that a rhetorical question? It's the Winter Games.
Then what's going on here? Yeah, the Winter Games are officially here. And if you're anything like us, you are locking in for events that you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. That's why following the Winter Games on FanDuel makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on sports you care about most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected into the action. You can check out those sports that only come by, again, once every 4 years. The curling, the ski joring, the ski ballet, all of it. It's right there in front of you. Must watch stuff for those who love just weird sports. It's right there. FanDuel keeps you locked into the competition. FanDuel makes the entire Olympic experience engaging from start to finish. The Winter Games are on. There's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game.
Not to get focused on the wrong thing, Andy, but I don't think ski joring is in the Olympic program this year. It hasn't been there since 1926,
according to the research that I did. It's being brought back. Maybe I read it wrong, but these were current articles. They said it's coming back.
Maybe. I hope so. The Winter Games need more horses.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'll read that quote again.
By the way, too, speaking of horses and cute animal-like things, the Gee Whiz, the Wizards mascot, is suing Jackson Hayes. We can maybe talk about that more at greater length, but just so people are aware.
Has he filed the suit or just talked about it?
Oh, yeah, he has a lawyer.
Right, but did they actually file yet? I think what I read was that they're going to give an opportunity to settle this out of court before filing, which says to me we might be fishing for money. I am all for Gee Whiz using the legal system as he sees fit. But if he testifies, he needs to do it in the costume.
Mm-hmm.
The guy inside can't. It needs to be him in the witness stand wearing the costume
and not answer questions verbally.
No, he has to write everything down or
just
mime it. He
not.
can't. He's right.
Yeah, just
the lawyer really has his work cut out for him, asking nothing but yes/no questions.
Yes, he does.
Anyway, so I'll read the quote again. LeBron says, "We can't sustain energy and effort for 48 minutes, and they can. That's why they won a championship." Um, I think that's another one that got people's attention because the one thing that I don't think anybody really criticized in this game was energy and effort. In the Oklahoma City game, Lakers play hard throughout. They didn't always play well, and they did not execute well, but effort was not the problem. Execution was. And so I think that is one of the reasons that got people's attention. What was your interpretation?
I mean, I think LeBron is correct as a season-long assessment, if not necessarily for that game. I mean, we've talked about before, like that type of high motor 48-minute energy for this team has not always been there. At times it has, and there have been sustained stretches where for the most part they've played pretty hard, but proper energy, and I think this can be attached to your energy level. Sometimes it can be separate, but proper focus, proper discipline, that type of overall engagement. And maybe that's a better word that LeBron was searching for, just overall engagement, because engagement can be everything from how hard you're playing to how smart you're playing to how well you're minding the details. And that might have been what LeBron is referring to, although occasionally it can be, or I would even say periodically, it can be energy. Again, even if it's not the perfect word for that loss against the Thunder, I think globally speaking, he's not wrong.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think, for people watching the YouTube, they saw me nodding when you're talking about like what he's really meaning. Like I think to some degree people were sort of looking at that too literally. I think that it's a catch-all because it also like it's a kind way of saying like, our players, they have more talent. Like there's some of these other things kind of rolls everything in there. And I do agree. I think he's talking about the everything from sometimes we don't play hard enough. And I think that includes him. He needs to get back defensively. He needs to do that and stuff like that. But moving past that for a second and back to the team, they need to have a level of attention to detail that certainly I think when LeBron is locked in, those moments where that he has and Luka other players have, but as a group, they just simply can't afford to make mistakes against a team like Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City can afford to make mistakes against a team like the Lakers and still get out of there with a win. But the Lakers need to play kind of flawless basketball from a decision-making standpoint, from an execution standpoint, to give themselves a chance to beat a team like that in a series.
Yeah.
And I think that to me is what he's getting at. And it is, I think, impossible to find anything about that is not correct.
No, the Lakers do not have a high margin for error. They don't have the ceiling that they want, but they also, frankly, don't have the floor that they want either, because it's become very clear over the course of this season. Their weaknesses are very easy, sometimes even for teams that aren't very good, but certainly the contending teams, the elite teams, even just the garden variety playoff level teams to exploit. And they have to be minding all of the details. They have to be executing. They do have to play at a high energy level. And I don't want to take away from that part of it because I do think it matters. They have to be the team that gets regularly to 50-50 balls. They have to be the team that remembers to box out all the time. Like they have to be the team that, and this is mostly about the three stars, Luka, LeBron, and Austin, that sometimes has to shut the hell up rather than arguing with the refs and get your ass back in transition defense, because the Lakers often struggle to defend in transition 5-on-4, much less 4-on-5.
Right, exactly. Like that. And that's a discipline question. And it's interesting like that, with each player, it's like, the stars may know the right rotation. They might know, where the next pass is going to be, the angle for the screen, all these other things. But like their discipline needs to be tied up into, not doing the stuff that other star players do, which is arguing calls and being late getting back defensively. That is something that like 90% of the stars around the league do, at least some throughout a game. Lakers can't afford it. And so the role guys need to make sure, DeAndre Ayton needs to make sure he's mentally locked in and that doesn't fade in and out over the course of games, which it sometimes does. I think Rui has a tendency sometimes to just momentarily lose track of what he's doing, like where his guy is, and for players who don't have necessarily great defensive instincts. And, we saw the struggles of the Lakers, the guys who were left of the Lakers had on Tuesday, like a guy like Kennard, who I think actually does know what he's supposed to do and will try really hard to do it and is physically challenged in the execution of it. Everybody's got their own kind of obstacle that they need to address and overcome in this. But, for a team like the Lakers, who are right there in the top 6 with, these teams in the Western Conference, and when Luka plays, have been very successful as a group, but still aren't seen, and I think rightly so, as good as the next tier below Oklahoma City.
But here's what, though, I think makes this more interesting when you peel back the layers of this, and I think for a lot of Laker fans, because I've seen both the reaction in the comments section of this show, but also on Twitter, people reacting to us at Cam Brothers, when LeBron mentions the inability, or I guess maybe unwillingness to, as he said, sustain energy and effort for 48 minutes, which is something he said the Thunder can do. And that's why they won a championship. Whether you think effort and energy are the perfect words for LeBron to be using, sort of accurate words, case by case, whatever, they are the words that he used. And that idea of this team not always having just the pure balls out effort on display that they need to play with in order to keep up with these other teams. They don't have a choice if they're going to offset their lack of athleticism, their lack of speed, their lack of defense, at times the lack of physicality. These are the things they have to do. LeBron is a piece of that problem. Like, he's a piece of that specific problem when it happens. And I understand that at 41, 23 seasons in, plus all the playoff mileage, he's not capable of playing high-end basketball and high-effort basketball, both, sometimes either, for sustained periods, on a game-in, game-out basis. Like, LeBron is just not able to do that anymore.
No, his floor is significantly lower.
And there are times where LeBron, out of necessity, pragmatism, however you want to put it, has to conserve his energy, has to pick his spots. And in a vacuum, it's totally justifiable, totally sensible. But there's a trickle-down effect from this. And there's a trickle-down effect that the rest of the team feels. And I can tell you, because again, I've seen the reaction. When LeBron specifically phrases it the way he did, to a lot of fans, it's going to seem like either hypocrisy or just total lack of self-awareness, because he is part of that problem. Even when you contextually understand the reasons where he might have no choice other than to be part of that problem, he nonetheless is.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it rubs fans the wrong way.
I get why. I 100% get why. We will talk a little bit about LeBron in the extra segment. People may notice we're going to try to provide a little extra programming over the course of the week, not just the long shows, but some shorter form stuff. And we're going to get into LeBron missing out on Tuesday's game means that LeBron will not be eligible for postseason awards. His all NBA streak is going to come to a close. Luka Dončić creeping close to the spot where he won't be eligible either. Potentially create some interesting issues for the Lakers going forward. So talk about that in the bonus segment, which you can help us name if you want.
Yes.
Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can hang out with over 37,000 subscribers to the channel. We'll see everyone after. We'll see everyone later, just later.